Hi everybody. So I want to introduce the Chakra series. I'm doing this with Craig Holliday, and we're going to go through each one of the 7 chakras in a more in-depth way than your classic color, food, and emotion association. We just dive in deeper to get a more expansive view of what the chakras really mean. I'll be releasing each video a few weeks apart. I also recommend making sure that you watch them in order so that they all tie in together. Since they're not necessarily meant to stand alone, they're meant to be one gigantic kind of weaving through of a chat. I hope you enjoy. I'm here again with Craig Holliday, the most amazing non-dual teacher and counselor. He has an awesome YouTube channel that has brought me so much peace while I was going through my awakening. And I just wanted to go through the chakra system, anything to do with each center, the feelings that are represented by that area, how to work with them, the challenges that we may find.
So this is a huge topic, and so let's just start with the basics here. Is what are the chakras? So chakras are literally aspects of our divine self. So they're aspects of our divinity, and so they are expressions of the soul. And within each chakra center is a seat, like a resting place, a seat, a kingdom of, say, a specific heaven world, that's available to us, along with, the intelligence that comes with that world. So a lot of people, when they think about chakras, they say, well, what does this chakra represent, and what color is it, and all these kind of silly questions. But what I would like us to do is to feel into these centers as we go through each of them. And the big thing for us to remember here is chakras, that they're also evolutionary aspects of our divinity. And so, we live in this paradox of being both divine and human. Now, most of us know ourselves, fully as human. And so when we relate to our chakras, we are relating to them in a human way. But it's through us evolving through our human self and the human psychology that we release, that which is unuseful, and we step more fully into the intelligence or the divine aspect. And all these chakra centers, when they are open, our energy, our true spiritual energy, can flow through us smoothly and fluidly. And so, you have access to the totality of your spiritual energy, your chi, your prana, your kundalini. But when we have, like an energetic blockage in our chakra, we have to look at, okay, what's happening in that center? Now, in the past, most spiritual traditions, because they didn't have a clear and accurate understanding of psychology and how psychology affects our chakras, the way they worked with blockages is through oftentimes through breath work, trying to blast through, a certain center, or clear it, or, visit a healer and, they take the energy out of you, or doing some type of shamanic work. The way I teach it is we work with it in a tantric way. And so we see that, say like on the root chakra. The root chakra is how we connect to life. And so more specifically on the human level, it's how we connect to our tribe, our family, our ancestors, and so you are Irish, and so there's part of you that connects to your Irish ancestors. I'm also Irish, and so I come from this long line, of Irish ancestors. And if I look at, some of the shadow that I have, in that sense of tribalism, within my ancestors, there's this sense of, you know, you should repeat what your parents did. If you were a farmer, you should be a farmer. Something that's more like really ingrained in my particular Irish heritage is alcoholism. So there's tremendous alcoholism. Like almost everyone in my family has died of alcoholism in the past. So it's that brutal. And so I can feel that pain. I can feel that pain and like this pain of being human, in my tribe. And then there's this whole, way we micromanage pain. And so one of the ways individuals say work with the pain of alcoholism is through drinking more. Mm-hmm. And then it just repeats itself. And so this is how, say, the root chakra would just repeat itself and just stay stuck in the past, is we just relate to it on a human level. And we repeat the past. We never step outside of tribal norms. We keep repeating the same thing over and over. But as we grow into the truth of our divinity, we can look at those patterns. So say in the root chakra, in the most healthy way, it's, are we grounded? Do we feel safe in the world? Mm-hmm. Are we connecting fully with life in a grounded way? Sometimes you'll see spiritual people and they're way up here in the third eye and their crown chakra, and they are completely ungrounded. They're like floating all over the place, and they're, one step away from ascending into their angelic nature, mm-hmm. but, they're not living life here on earth. They just live it in heaven. And so the root chakra is good, like in its highest manifestation, is this sense of being rooted, of being grounded, of being connected, having healthy relationships with family, mm-hmm. Having healthy mm-hmm. relationships with the past, having healthy relationships with the culture. And, as we grow and open to our divinity in the root chakra, we step beyond our tribe and we become more inclusive.
That'd be the next step of the root chakra. So initially, yes, getting comfortable with all of the things that, ancestry, tribe, but then kind of reaching out into including yes. everything.
Reaching out and including everything. And so this is something where, in the past, when we had such like nationalism and such tribal identities, it was a really big deal for like, an Irish person to marry, an Irish Catholic to marry a Protestant or whatever. It's like, oh my God.
Jesus, yeah.
Yeah, you're breaking the law, or, to move to London or something, to do something crazy. But, as our world becomes more global, as we evolve collectively, we go from being, tribal centric, to being more global centric, to being world centric, to embracing all, to including all. And most of us, we carry around all these tribal wounds within us, and we don't even know it. Mm-hmm. So within the root chakra, there can also be like old wounds from previous lifetimes. And so I don't want to, get into that because that'll just make the whole thing too confusing. But it tends to be the storehouse of where we can be connected, through oneness, like in a really rooted, grounded way, to all of life. Let's say the spiritual awakening on the level of the root chakra, and this is something that most people never talk about because they haven't made it there, it is actually opening to the experience of matter, like literally our matter becoming divine. And so some of the great, cutting edge teachers who spoke about this would be like Sri Aurobindo and the Mother in South India, who saw themselves not as beings who are here just to transcend their humanity, but literally that our humanity and our body is the evolutionary edge of God. It's God literally evolving down and into matter.
The spiritual energy descending, that's kind of my experience. It was like you go higher, 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 and you have all of those openings, but now it's like everything has to do with the body and stepping fully into life. And I feel like a lot of people believe that the openings, occur the other way around, but it almost feels full circle. And now it's all about, safety and being fully here. And that is like you said, something that I don't feel like is talked about that much. So a lot of people feel like it might be a fall from grace, or it's like a next step.
You brought up something quite beautiful. That's a beautiful insight that you've had, because in the past, life on planet Earth was so ridiculously brutal. We might die at age 30 of, like a rotten tooth or something crazy. And so our spirituality in the past, centered around this sense of, I'm going to try to get, going to try to go to heaven and get the hell out, off planet Earth. But as we evolve as a species, as we grow as we, live longer here on planet Earth, the divine is putting this pressure on us and is starting to come down into us. And so you see that, some spiritual teachers are starting to teach in a way, where yes, they honor transcendence, but then they're honoring the second wave of divinity where God is coming down and into you and living, like literally giving birth in you as you. And so if we're speaking about the root chakra, this is the deepest level of spiritual awakening. It's literally God is being born into us as us. And so as we step into this new form of divinity, the earth has an opportunity to evolve. Human consciousness has an opportunity to evolve from being an animal consciousness to a human tribal consciousness to a global consciousness to a unified consciousness, one truly with all of life. A great first step, for anyone watching is just to begin with these questions. It's like, how do I relate to life? Am I fighting with life? Am I following the norms of my ancestors? Am I repeating the past? If I'm repeating what my father did, my mother did, can I let go of that and step into something greater? Can I choose to step into something greater? And so these questions are just really looking at, how am I relating to my tribe, to my community? Do I feel safe in this world? Or do I live in a way where I see everyone as the enemy? Instead, do I live in a way where I see everyone and literally everything as God? Everything as God. If you look, physically speaking, the root chakra, it's also where our genitals are. It's where we give birth. It's, where we have this ability, to procreate, like in an animal way or a human way. But it's also the seat of Kundalini, where literally God is born in you as you. And if the Kundalini does awaken within an individual, and it comes forward in a powerful way, it will literally feel like the birth process, like something raw, something huge, like literally the Big Bang is being born in you as you. And so there's, such a huge intelligence that's here, but oftentimes it'll even feel like an otherworldly intelligence or a cosmic intelligence. When you truly step into the divinity of it, it doesn't feel like, the intelligence of your tribal ancestors. There's this huge creative force that's coming forward, literally out of the root of your being. And it's incredibly transformative, if you allow it to go through all 7 chakra centers. And so the awakening, it's funny, it can open from the bottom up. It also comes from the top down. And when the two come together, it creates this different type of awakening. And this again is something that most people have never experienced. It's like Earth waking up and God waking up. And so the God in earth and the God in heaven coming together. And this is what's possible, in this new world that's coming. But it's going to take people who are courageous enough and who are open and willing, to live in this greater way. Did you have a question about the first?
I do have a question. I wanted to know, and I guess this might be something obvious, but I feel like a lot of people are confused with that terminology of like open. My chakras are open, or a blockage for me has always been quite obvious. Not so much in which chakra it lies. Sometimes I tend to just like not identify with which one it's in. I just realize there's something here. There's a theme to it. Therefore, blockage. But when people say my chakras are open, how do you know the difference, or is there a difference? Is it just free flowing? You're not having obstructions either physically, emotionally, spiritually in that area, or what does that really mean?
Yeah, so that's a great question. So, normally any human being, whether they're blocked or not blocked, can go, say, to a healer, and the healer can, do their healing energy work, and you walk away and you'll feel as if your chakras are open. For most of us, unless we have incredible pain, in that chakra center, something, ridiculously heavy.
Like, I feel like that sometimes with acupuncture.
Exactly.
Yeah,
So
totally.
acupuncture will do it. It'll help, the chakras to be open. It'll help the meridians to flow. But you may only stay open for 20 minutes or an hour or, maybe a day or this or that. And so, we have to look at big picture at what life here on planet Earth is. It's one giant spiritual path. It's one giant evolutionary path. And so, I don't want anyone to get the impression that blockages are bad and that means there's something wrong with me.
Exactly.
No, blockages mean that you gave birth, like you incarnated here into an evolutionary world. And in an evolutionary world, like all of us, have some level of collective karma in our root chakra. And so we could call that a blockage and, blame and judge ourselves, but that wouldn't be, an appropriate way to look at it. I like to look at everything from the perspective of evolution. And so, what is in the root chakra? Are we having these fights with family? Are we having fights with tribe? Are we having fights, these arguments with our past? This is root chakra kind of stuff. And so if we see that kind of congestion, it simply means that there's congestion there. There's something that needs to be worked out. And in order for us to open, the game of being open is a game of love. It's a path of love. So we have to be willing to, see clearly from a place of mindfulness. But the mindfulness must be loving. And so can I open up to that? Can I see it clearly? Can I meet it with love? Can I forgive what needs to be forgiven? And then normally what you begin to feel there in the root chakra is, instead of like a clench or a tightness or heaviness, there's a sense of openness. And then you also begin to feel the sense of power and intelligence. That's associated with that root chakra. We feel good, we feel open, we feel safe. And we are fully incarnated here. We're saying, yes, I am willing to live fully here on planet Earth. I'm not a spiritual person who's simply trying to escape. So that's a beautiful question.
Thank you. And you answered it beautifully. I love that really it boils down to your relationship to life and how you truly see being human and standing in this realm instead of trying to escape it. That really is what having a rooted root chakra is. I struggled with, mainly if I were to boil down like what was the biggest issue within stepping back into the body, it would have been feeling safe. I've always felt very unsafe, this feeling that things aren't going to be okay. And like you said, we live in a heaven realm. Everything is here to help us. Everything is here for your evolution. And those things help. But I wonder if you ever struggled with that feeling of safety, or if you had any tips to make somebody feel more safe.
That's a beautiful question. And I'll be really clear about my spiritual path. I have lived through hell here on planet Earth. So I'm not one of these individuals who, just woke up and stepped into some heaven realm and be like, oh, everything's perfect. I've had my ass kicked repeatedly here on planet Earth. But let me tell you about the beauty of opening in the root chakra. It's the realization that, yes, this human body has been beat up. My heart has been broken countless times. I've been publicly humiliated. I've been dragged through the hot coals, one way or another, multiple times. I know this pain that people speak about. I mean, I've even lived with chronic pain, in the body. And so, I just want to make that clear that I'm not the kind of spiritual teacher who doesn't know the experience of pain and trauma. And every day I work with individuals in trauma, helping them, to heal that trauma, to release that trauma. And so let's talk about the gift of trauma. And this is one of the most brutal gifts that God gives us. When you are betrayed by friends, by family, by children, when you've been physically abused or beaten or been to war or whatever it is, there's this sense in your humanity, like, holy shit, this world is not safe. This hurts. This is painful. But if you step back into your divinity, you begin to realize there's something here that's never been harmed. What's that? What's that thing that's never been harmed? And when you begin to turn around and look inside and see, there's something so powerful, so brilliant, so deathless, so fearless, that I am. I want to get to know that. The problem with being a human and being traumatized is our mind is continually reminding us that person hurt me. And it repeats that story over and over again. And it does that because it's trying to protect us, like our mind, So this is like the shadow side of the third eye chakra. Our human mind, it repeats the past again and again. That person hurt me. And of course it's wise, like, if someone hurt you, if they physically abused you, leave the situation. But, once you've left it, then you grieve, you embrace the trauma, you meet it with love. And can you look inside and see there's something within me that's innocent, that's pure, that's beautiful, that's timeless, that's so incredible, powerful, that wasn't actually harmed by the trauma. What's that? Can I get to know that? And when you begin to know that, it's like you give birth. You wake up into this new realm where you realize, like, oh yes, in a human way, that hurt. Like when I was a little boy and got my hand slammed in the car door, that hurt like hell. But I'm not going to spend the rest of my life, being afraid of getting my hand slammed in the car door. If I had my heart broken by a woman, I'm not going to spend the rest of my life in fear of women. But if I do the healing work and heal that wound, and then look inside and say, what is it that's here that's just as pure as the day I was born? How's that possible? That there's this purity that's still absolutely here. And like when I look at you, I see this purity pouring out of your eyes. And so despite the pain, the trauma, whatever it is you've been through, or any of us have been through, there's this absolute purity that is literally deathless. And so waking up in the root chakra, you begin to discover that this purity and this innocence that we are is actually indestructible. To open up and to discover the truth of what you are, you have to be willing to walk through hell and literally have everything lit on fire within you. And then you realize, oh, I didn't die. It did not kill me.
Thank you. It totally changed the way I see safety, the willingness to feel that pain, to meeting it with love and allowing it to just burn through you and choose to move forward anyway. That resilience, I feel like, that trust that whatever is going to happen, it still works out.
It's a resilience that cannot be squashed. Like, even if, you have the most horrid life on planet Earth, sometimes I meet individuals who've been, like, literally systematically tortured and abused and just, so brutalized because, I work with people in pain. I still see this absolute divinity pouring out of their eyes. And so part of my work is to help them reconnect with that, to see there's something good here that was never harmed. Never harmed.
Thank you for watching, guys. I will leave Craig's information down below as well as my own. Make sure to catch all 7 videos once they're all released, and I hope you have a beautiful day.